Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the December meeting of the HRC. I think it is December. We usually don't meet this month, but we felt like it was so pressing that we had to address some issues that we want to continue the work of this commission. I would like to do a roll call. Staff, if you can lead us in that roll call, please.
Commissioner Duteray.
Present.
Commissioner Regier.
Present.
Commissioner Savage.
Present.
Chair Smith.
Present.
Vice Chair Stinger.
Present.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any agenda changes, requests, or deletions? Okay, there are none. Thank you. Right now, we'd like to open up for oral communications from the public. You feel free to comment on anything that your heart desires for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, as long as it is not an agendized item that is listed on our agenda. Is there anybody else? Are there anybody from the public? You can raise your hand, or you can hit, what is the key code again, staff?
Oh, let me look at it. Sorry.
Well, there's nobody on the phone.
There's no one on the phone. There is no one on the phone, but it is *9.
Rebeccaeisenberg.
Okay.
Is looking.
Let me have Mary get the screen on for the count. Hello, Rebecca. Rebecca, if you'll just give us a second while we're getting the timer up.
Sure.
Okay, and hold on a minute because my screen just did something a little funky. Okay.
Hi, Councilmember Tanaka.
Okay, so Mary,
How's it going? I was trying my camera working. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let me just, okay, so Rebecca, you have 3 minutes.
Sorry, I made a mistake. You have 3 minutes, Rebecca.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
First, I want to congratulate and welcome Commissioner Duteray. Although I guess it's been, more than a couple days or something, and it's great to see you up there, although I can't see you right now. So I'll try to be brief. First, as a general matter, this isn't a criticism because I'm sure I share your frustration. I really wish that the City Council would listen to you all more. And then, yes, I do have a suggestion too. Like with the 8 can't wait matter, I feel like because you did the high integrity approach, you took the high integrity approach and you presented to the City Council kind of a compromise to start with. They then compromised it down even further. So, take it or leave it. Maybe this would work, maybe it wouldn't, but it might be worthwhile next year to try a new strategy where you go even stronger than where you would be happy to end up. And then the compromise can be down to what you really could settle with. Anyway, that's as an aside. Second, I'm sure you're aware that the City Council discussed the downtown streets matter. And although I'm really excited and grateful that they did cut the contract from 3 years to 1 year, I am frustrated that they didn't take a harder stand on getting the report about the sexual assault allegations in addition to the sexual harassment allegations. I've been in touch with one of the victims, and she spoke at the meeting, and I'm sure you all agree that it's just factually incorrect to say that there's no evidence when the testimony of 11 women constitutes evidence. That was my attorney husband agreeing with me in the background. 2 lawyer couples were fun. So it does. The testimony is evidence. There is evidence. And if you heard Mr. Glenn Bird, what's his name, speak, you would, Owen Bird, thank you, he's helpful again. If at least I'll just speak for myself. I heard Owen Bird speak, and I heard him say a lot of very problematic things from a feminist point of view, from a humanist point of view, if you may. And our city can do better than that, deserves better than that. Finally, because that's all I have time for, you've probably noticed that the city council went from 3 women out of 7. It's about to go to 2 women out of 7. And I hope that you all can work on somehow convincing a city to have a more representative gender representation. That was redundant, but thank you so much for your time and taking my comment.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your consistent advocacy in our community. We appreciate it.
I don't see any other hands. Chair, you might ask one more time, but I don't see any hands.
I'm good. All right. So I want to move into our first item and discussion. As you know, as I've stated for many years, for my time on the HRC, I believe one of the significant jobs of the HRC is to be the canary in the coal mine, is to be the ones that lift things that might slip by the city council because they have so much on their plate, particularly around the union perspective. Over the past 12 months, I have noticed a disturbing pattern of incidences and language in Palo Alto, specifically around race, and that have hateful tones to them. To list some of them, we have the vandalization of the University Church. We have an incident where one of our council members was verbally accosted because of his ethnicity. We had a sign specifically talking about the Wuhan flu, which made many of our Asian community feel uncomfortable in our community. We heard testimony at our meeting right before we had to go into the COVID pandemic break, where there was high tension in the Asian community because they were experiencing discrimination in our city. We've heard from many people, the comments on Nextdoor and the comment section on the newspapers have been very problematic, specifically around race. We've had vandalization of the BLM art display. We've had vandalization of Black Lives Matter signs, up to 13 or 14 incidences on people's lawns. We've also had vandalization of a Black candidate sign with hateful letters, and we have another incident where there was a hateful letter left for a resident in the city. I am not one that is one to jump out on instances, but once I start seeing a pattern, it is something that I feel that we need to alert the city council of, we need to bring to the attention of the community, and we need to make this a significant discussion point. I'm going to open up for public comment on this matter, and then I want to discuss with my fellow commissioners the actions that we can possibly take around writing a letter to our council and whoever else will listen, that we need to do something and move in some direction to address these incidents. One of the things I want to question our community against is sometimes people talk about, well, it's only one person and it's only one this and it's only one that. Most hate crimes that end up in shootings are done by lone wolf shooters. And all it takes is one person to take their animus out on somebody else, like a Dylan Roof did at the Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina. So I take this highly seriously, and I believe that this is not something that we should brush under the rug and say, oh, it's 1 or 2 incidents. And if it is kids, we do prosecute. They are accountable to the law. This can't just be marked off as a kid incident. So I'd like to open this up right now for public comment, and then we'll get to our commissioners on the issue. Is there anybody that would like to make comment at this time? You may raise your hand. Okay.
Chair, I see one hand, and if Mary gets up the clock and I will, hold on a minute. Okay, it's Rebeccaeisenberg, and Rebecca, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please, Rebecca. Ooh. Rebecca, you might have to call in again, or put your hand up again. I'm not sure what happened. But there you are. Okay, let me do it this time and see if we get it correctly. So go ahead, please.
Thank you. By the way, just so you know, lots of people told me they were going to call in too. So it's kind of embarrassing to be the only caller, but I do know lots of people care about this issue and all the related issues. I just want to say that I agree with the chair 100%, and I really am grateful for the way that the chair worded this issue. I do think it's hard to deny that there are patterns and systems of past practices and present practices. And what we want to do is do our best to eliminate those systems and those patterns. And, you know, if I were queen of the world, I think what I would want to do is require everyone to read the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. I'm sure that many of you have read that, and it's likely that you agree that that's just a magnificent book. And if, or in some other way, I hope that people can, maybe also reading White Fragility, and if they're fans of economics like I am, they can read How to Be an Anti-Racist. I don't mean to show off my Goodreads account. You can look at it there. I just love reading, and I think there's so much empathy we can get from reading, or if not, maybe from talking to other people and really listening. I think it's undeniable that there were past and there are present patterns of casteism, you know, in this case, a lot of racism. Sometimes that just, you know, results from the situation of such segregation. And of course, you know, the unconscious bias that I know that we all work so hard to help people become conscious about, so that we can work together and eradicate this. I mean, I guess that's all I have to say, is that I support you. I know that many in the community support you. My husband, who's cooking right 5 feet away from me, he supports you too. So thank you so much for your hard work and for your time.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yep. James.
Hello?
Go ahead, please, Aram.
Can you hear me?
We
Yep,
can.
you
Go
have
ahead,
3
please.
minutes.
No, I didn't get it. I was on the line for oral communications and wasn't acknowledged, but I hope maybe you'll give me those minutes back. But, you know, in terms of race relations and hate in Palo Alto, we still haven't dealt with the Zach Perone matter. Zach Perone is alleged to have committed, in my estimation as an attorney, if it was proven accurate, a hate crime against Marcus Barbour, a Black officer at the time, about 6 years ago, in the city of Palo Alto. Mr. Barbour, Officer Barbour, jumped into San Francisco Creek, saved the life of a drowning African-American gentleman, comes back to the station house, and this is the allegations, is told by Zach Perone, who's then, by the way, promoted from lieutenant to captain. Oh, I didn't know, and I'm not going to say the whole word, it's too foul to say, that ends could swim. Subsequently, Barbour is driven out of the department. He's now successfully with the sheriff's department, and I recently talked to Sheriff Lori Smith, and she says he is doing famously. He's an honorable individual. He should never have been released from this department. He should have been brought back and given Perone's position, and we continue to cover up that year after year after year after year, and they even changed the rules. That you know, Ed Chicata and the police chief all engaged in a complicit action to take that kind of reporting away from the independent police auditor and send it to human resources, where it's been buried all of these years. The city council with Ed Chicata back in December of last year changed the whole rules. We call it the Zach Perone rule, and we cover it up to this day. So if we're going to start to talk about hate and racism and the vile segregation that, by the way, we can celebrate 50 years now, more than 50 years ago. Now, today, December 17th, Foothills Park is open to everyone. It's no longer a segregated park. But if we don't talk about Perone, if we continue to cover this up, and you all have covered it up because you won't speak out about it, the city council won't speak out about it. I had it as my #1 priority for the city council last year. I've written articles about them. Hopefully you've looked at them. And I'm going to make it my priority in 2021. I think AB 3121, I hope I've got the right number, the Racial Justice Act, pushed through the legislation by a former colleague of mine in the public defender who's now a state legislator, Ash Kalra, I think gives me the tools to make sure we get that report that's been hidden all these years. So it's disingenuous to talk about racial hate crimes while we still harbor allegedly one in our police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Aram.
Thank you so much, Mr. James.
I don't see any other hands raised, Chair Smith.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, I'd like to do a round robin discussion, so we'll do it in alphabetical order. My proposed thought process on this is to write a letter to the city council highlighting this pattern and listing out in excruciating detail, including the 13 or 14 incidences against the BLM signs, the letters with photo evidence about all of these incidences, because I think they have to hear about it and they have to see it in detail and they have to see the continued pattern. So right now I'd like to start with Commissioner Vergeer and would love to hear, Commissioner Deteriel first and then Commissioner Vergeer and hear their thoughts on this matter.
I think it makes sense to outline all these incidents and raise them, collected, sort of collate them and raise it to the city council. I'm not sure what the process is in terms of beyond raising it for them, what else we might suggest.
Commissioner Duterre, it's kind of hard to hear you, so I'm not sure if you could turn the volume up on your computer, that would be great.
Better now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just saying I'm in agreement that we should write such a letter and make it easy for them to see that there is indeed a pattern and outline the various incidents that we know about. And as for what other recommendations we might make, I don't know what our role is as HRC, so I'll just end there and say that I agree that that is something that we ought to do and raise to the attention of the city council.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Vergeer.
I agree. I mean, I think the symbolic issue of doing that is great. I have no other.
Thank you. Commissioner Savage. You're muted. Daryl, you're muted. Sorry.
Okay, got it. What exactly are you asking us to do? I'm a little confused.
So right now, what I'm proposing to the group before we get a motion is that we want to write this letter to the city council saying this is a pattern we're hearing from the community. We need some level of action or attentiveness, whether it be from the police or the council, to start looking into these issues seriously because it's an escalating pattern that we've heard from the community.
Okay, so you're asking us to agree with that?
Or I'm asking what your thoughts are on it, whether you agree, is there any other recommendations we should do? Is there anything else that you think we should highlight in this letter?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm looking. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I'm looking at the report that you and Commissioner Stinger did, and so it's referring to that. Am I right? No,
this will be a separate letter because there's a couple of things. We deal a lot with people's perceptions and lived experiences in the report, as you will hear, and it has some very significant recommendations as far as how do we build community, or how do we move forward as a community and address some of our challenges around race and being Black. But these are incidences that are very alarming, that are beyond the scope of us having whatever or recommendations end up being for the other motion, you know, one's more community building, one's more of an alarm to say, this is a pattern. Somebody needs to pay attention and somebody needs to bring it to the attention of this city that this is an important matter to address.
Got it. Okay. Yes, if there is indeed a pattern, it needs to be brought out and brought up to the commission, to the council. You know, that there should be no hate crimes in this area, period.
And thank you for calling it what it is. They are hate crimes when we single out somebody for race or ethnicity and do it in a public way. That is a hate crime. Commissioner Stinger.
I'm glad we have this agenda item. I feel very strongly that we need to address the city council, but also PAPD. And I think it's important to do the call out of the individual events because each one needs to be acknowledged and recorded, but it's the cumulative effect of almost every month. It seems like we get a hate crime, evidence of a hate crime. And I wonder if we can also ask for some attention beyond the single event, that the tracking of these, you start to look at them linearly and look for the police reports should look back and forward. I would expect that the police reports for most crimes look at them as individual events. And so then it might be, okay, one sign was destroyed. Oh, I think that's horrible, but it could be seen by a reporting officer, it was one sign. But if it's examined with what came before, it becomes less than that. And if it is, even if it is not a hate crime, if it's a prank, I think it still deserves the punishment of a prank, an evil prank.
Well, and I think it's dangerous for us to ever let somebody do a hate crime and call it a prank or say they're young and they don't understand, because you need certain training and environmental forces that allow you to act in a certain way. And once it starts impeding on somebody else's humanity, it stops being cute and stops being a prank. Councilmember Tanaka, do you have any thoughts on this before I move this motion?
Well, I think I really have to applaud what you're trying to do, you and your colleagues, because you know, the honest answer is that the city council has so many different things on our agenda that's hard for us to really pay attention to these important topics. So I'm really glad you're bringing it up, and I think you know, the best thing would be is if you guys could figure out how to remedy these situations, right? But it's hard, right? They're not easy answers, but I think if you guys could do that harder work and try to figure out and make recommendations on how we could lessen this, because I don't think anyone wants this kind of behavior. How do we lessen it? How do we eliminate it? Because I think on council, we certainly can't figure this out, but if you guys can help us figure out how to do this, that would be awesome.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Taylor. Yes, Commissioner Gutierrez?
May I ask a question about this?
Yes, of course.
So to understand what the consequences are or the differences are between vandalism and a hate crime, and what are the punishments? Is this something that anyone can understand?
I don't have a good answer for that. I would have to research it, but off the top of my head, I believe vandalism is just destruction of property. If you talk about hate crime, it specifically attacks ethnicity, race, religion, sexuality of somebody in the way the behavior is committed. So, you know, if somebody goes and spray paints somebody's house and puts their name on it, that's vandalism. If somebody goes and spray paints somebody's house and says this person should leave their community because of ethnicity, race, or sexuality in that spray paint, that's a hate crime. Make sense?
Yeah, so my question was more around like the consequences of that and the different sort of consequence or punishment for one versus the other.
That I don't know. I don't know that.
And then I guess the other question would sort of spurred by Councilmember Tanaka the idea of suggesting something in addition to showing that there's a pattern, that we're concerned about hate crimes being on the rise. Is that something we should consider including in the letter or even discussing here? Is it?
I mean, I'm open to the discussion. As Councilmember Tanaka was talking, I was thinking maybe something like working with PAPD to identify patterns and ways to look, or working with the council. I don't have a good. I feel very strongly like we need to bring it up, but because of some of the legal challenges around it, I don't think I think I wanted to leave some of that space for PAPD and council to do some stuff. But if we want to make some recommendations, I feel comfortable with making some recommendations around. I don't know. So does that make sense?
Yes. I think it's quite challenging to think about what the recommendations might be, but one of the things that comes up for me is that I think a lot of times people don't know, meaning the larger community may not know that there's this pattern, there's multiple incidents, right? And so what we don't know, we don't get concerned about. So I guess I wonder about awareness raising or some kind of a way of letting people know that we need to step up and collectively try to do the opposite of hate crimes or call them out. And this sort of jumps ahead to the later agenda item that you cover around the history of Black and Brown communities here.
I do like, you bring up something that I think is a really healthy thing, is how do we increase awareness for neighbors and people in our community to say, not that our community, in ways that they're bad actors or people acting in a certain way. And if you see it, report it. It's not a very simple, like, I think increase awareness and asking people to report those things might be helpful. Okay. I would need somebody to make a motion, or I'll take a stab at making a motion. I would like to move that the Human Relations Commission writes a letter to the City Council detailing out the incidences as described in my earlier comments. And first recommendation being increasing awareness in our community of these incidences and asking people to report. And B, asking PAPD for possible strategies and solutions to address this in our community.
Did you want Mary to write this and repeat it, or did you want to put it in the chat? What would you like to do, Chair?
I'll have Mary write it and repeat it, please.
I think if you could state it again, Mary, I'm not sure if it needs to be on the screen, but if you could start over, Chair, that would be great. And maybe after Mary writes it, she can put it on the screen. But I do want to have a new habit of being able to see the motion as it's completely written before the HRC, because it doesn't really work for staff to have to go back and listen to it afterwards to make sure we got it right, or commissioners who have to remember back to what it said, because it was quite lengthy. So if you want to start over, or would it be easy if Mary wrote it on the screen so you could see if she has it correct?
What I think I will do is repeat it for Mary, and then we can put it on the screen.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to move a motion to the floor that the HRC will write a letter to the City Council detailing out the patterns of hate incidences in the city of Palo Alto since last January. I think that's a better way to put it. I would also want to make the following recommendation: that we ask the City Council to find ways to increase community awareness of these incidences, and also ask the community to report activities that look suspicious. And then the other one, I think the other recommendation I would like to add is to ask PAPD to make recommendation on strategies, tactics, or approaches that can help address this pattern.
So you want me to share what I have on the screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, I didn't get it all because my typing was.
That's all right. If you share it on the screen, we'll work through it.
Okay. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Move that Human Relations write a letter to the City Council detailing the pattern of hate incidences since last January as.
Okay, this is where I lost it a little bit.
Okay. We would like to ask the City Council to find ways.
Ask the City Council.
You know what? Sorry, I messed you up. Let's take a step back. We want to if you just erase that. If you just erase, okay. We want to ask the city, just start with we want to ask the City Council to make the following recommendations. Find ways to increase community awareness of these incidents.
I'm sorry.
I want to make the following recommendation. I messed up, Mary. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
We want to. Okay, start with this. The Human Relations Commission. Get rid of everything before the blinking cursor.
Get rid of here. Here, I'll just.
Okay. Thank you. The Human Relations Commission wants to make the following recommendation to the City Council. We need to find ways to increase community awareness of these incidences, to encourage the community to report the incidences when they see them. Okay. And then ask the PAPD to make recommendations to address this pattern. Yep. Does that make sense to everybody? No, we have to do the letter part. You have to undo twice because there was the letter part in the motion.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. And then you just get rid of the we want in that.
Chair Smith, Commissioner Savage has her hand raised.
Yes, Commissioner Savage.
Yeah. Before we send a letter like this, is it possible that we can get statistics and data from the police department detailing these hate crimes so that if there is a pattern, we'll be able to see that?
I don't have a problem asking them for it. I don't know if they're going to release it to us though. And I don't know if they categorized everything, whether they categorize something as vandalism that somebody else. Well, I don't know how they categorize it.
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable if we could see incidents, actual incidents. You know, I mean, the names are anonymous, of course, but just the actual crime that was committed, just so that we can determine, yes, there is a pattern.
Mm-hmm. So do you want me to bring the list of incidences to the commission?
Well, that would be helpful, yeah.
Because I think we brought them earlier. I think we brought forward September, but I don't have a problem. We have to include them in the letter so I can list them out. What I currently have on my list is the Wuhan flu sign at the coffee shop, the verbal abuse on a city council member, vandalization of the oldest Black church in our community. We have photos of comments on Nextdoor and comment sections in the newspaper, whether vandalization of the BLM art display, vandalization of BLM signs, 13 or 14 incidences. We also have the vandalization and threatening letter that was received by the only Black candidate for city council. That's what I have as incidences at this point. I can go to the police and ask them, do they have any others, or do they see any more? But that's what those incidences are what I'm basing this report on.
So then, but in other words, so police reports were made on all of these that you just mentioned.
Reports were, I can tell you, police reports were made on, or the police were made aware on the Wuhan sign, the vandalization of the church. I know the vandalization of BLM art display, and I know I personally sent the vandalization of the 13 to 14 Black Lives Matter signs on people's lawns and the letters to the police as a package. I actually did send that to I think the assistant chief or the chief, because me and when Commissioner Lee were here, we went to the community, put it all together, and we have a long document with all of them listed out.
Okay, so that would be good to include with the letter. Okay, got it.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I was definitely planning to include all of that, because I think one of the challenges is we need to move it from the point of a feeling to like, these are real concrete incidences. And I had a feeling to write this letter in September, but as I watched some other things evolve, I realized there's a bigger pattern. So I wanted to really get as much data together. And I was going to write a letter to a city council by myself, but when I spoke to the colleagues on this commission, we felt that the commission wanted to take part in this. Can I get a second on the motion? Okay, Commissioner Turan. All right, I'm ready to take a vote on the matter.
Can we see the, oh, I'm sorry.
The motion?
Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Stinger. You'd like to see the motion again?
Yeah, because I think you had some more words in your verbal, and I'd like to make sure that we captured them. Detailing out the pattern.
Would you like those to be like a 1, 2, and 3? Like 1, we need to find ways to increase them. 2, report, and 3, SPAPD. Would you like those to be numbered?
I'll take it just as the languages. We'll be able to break it out in the letter.
Okay.
I have no comments. I think it looks good.
So this is what I would like to do with this, and given the time of year it is, I will work on the letter, and then we will vote on the final letter to go out in our January meeting. Does that make sense to everybody? So everybody can see it clearly. And I'll also reach out to PAPB at the same time to see if they have any other incidents. All right, let's get a vote on this matter. We will start with Commissioner Turan.
Aye.
Commissioner Regeer.
Aye.
Commissioner Savage.
Aye.
Vice Chair Stinger.
Aye.
Chair Smith. Aye. Thank you. We have a full motion. In January, I will have a letter for you guys with all the docket so that you can approve me delivering our thoughts to the city council. All right. The presentation from the ad hoc committee to address city council referral to the HRC to produce a report on Black and Brown history in the current community, Smith and Stinger. All right, Mary, if you can get the presentation ready. We were given charge by the City Council in June to go ahead and create this report. Before I go too far into the report, I really do want to acknowledge the amazing work of Vice Chair Stinger. As I was dealing with some personal issues over the past month and a half, she has absolutely been amazing in putting together pages on top of pages of data, and her dedication to task has been impressive. I also want to thank the museum. Laura Bajou has done an amazing job in bringing us into the history. And I also want to thank the folks at Stanford, Megan Swayze Fogarty, from their outreach department, because they were able to provide us a ton of data. We were able to collect from many different sources. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so as I present tonight, I just want to give you a quick overview of where we'll be going. First of all, I want to give a background so people can understand what we're seeing and how we got to where we are. The next thing I want to talk about is themes observed, contemporary lived experience, and recommendations. All right, next slide, please. Okay, how did we get here? After the horrific murder of George Floyd, and as the summer continued with social protests, the City Council on June 8th affirmed that Black Lives Matter. They committed to address systemic racism and bias. And on June 15th, they directed the Human Relations Commission to produce a report on Black and Brown history and current community in Palo Alto. Okay, next slide, please. Sources. We have a wide range of sources, and this summer provided a fertile ground of them. We had literature and news reports. For example, the Palo Alto Online did a phenomenal piece where they interviewed African-American seniors in our community and had their experience. We also focused on personal lived experiences. One thing you cannot debate is somebody's lived experience. What they live is their experience, and you can't debate it. So we had At Palo Alto Speaks, which was a great effort with the media department for the city, which was a month of social media and a way for people to anonymously report. We had in June 2020, 2 significant protests in our area with thousands of people, one being on Juneteenth. We also had the Youth Rising Up, Can Gen Z Lead on Social Change banner by the Embarcadero media and youth community. We also, as a commission during this time, Police Reform 8 Can't Wait with community input and expert panels. And we heard that over, I think, 3 different panels in the month of July. And then bearing witness to Black and Brown experiences in Palo Alto. As you can see, we've got a wide and broad and deep array of sources for this. Next slide, please. Things that we've heard from history, transcripts of speeches given at the protest, transcripts of our public forums, is that it's persistent. The issue of systemic racism in our community is persistent. We've been doing this a long time and we still don't get it done. Consistent aggressions. It's the daily, and if you notice, we have daily capitalized and underlined in italics, because one of the things that people kept referring to was their daily lived experience in Palo Alto and the microaggressions that heard. One thing that we heard specifically dealing around school-age children and dealing with our community is young Black and Brown young people don't have positive role models in their curriculum or around town. And then finally, housing denied, awareness of de jure discrimination, limited access to housing, as well as evidence of de facto discrimination. So next slide, please. All right, persistence. We've been at this for some time and we still don't get it done. One of the interesting things is we were collaborating with the folks at Stanford and then pairing it with the history of the city. We realized there was one Black student in the freshman class in 1891 at Stanford, and Jane Stanford advocated for that one student. We as a community are good for advocating for situations, but not systems. So we'll get one or two people in, but we don't advocate for systems long-term. In the 1960s, there were 2 in the entry class. So people have to ask, why would we highlight that pattern? Because when you start looking at a community across several dimensions of race relations, you will see one person come in early, but you don't see any significant movement in the community over a significant period of time. Campus activism in the 1960s changed the status quo on campus and in town. In 2019, the entry class was 8% Black or African American and 17% Hispanic or Latino, which when you get into our community, you'll actually see we do a horrible job actually being a diverse community. Percentage of Palo Alto population, June 1st, 2019, that is Black, is 1.8%. Hispanic is 5.6%. But this is the stunning statistic, Commissioner Aguirre. The Black population Black and African American population in the state of California is 6.5%. We're well below that, but the Hispanic and Latino population in the state is 39.4%, and in our city is only 5.6%. Percentage of population in the US, I think it's important to look at that. It is 13.4% Black or African, and 18.5% Hispanic or Latino. So whether you do national, state, or local matrix, we are not a very diverse community in these aspects. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we wanted to start laying out, and what the slide shows is patterns of racism in the United States, and then you see what's happening in our community at the parallel times. And I think it's interesting that we tend to reflect the state of the country more than we would like to admit. Sometimes I think we think we're terminally unique, but the challenges around housing and race, we reflect the country more than we'd like to admit. Next slide, please. You know, one of the things, I just want to read this slide because this gentleman's well-respected gentleman, affluent community leader, African-American, and he said, and he gave this speech in Juneteenth. He said, "Good afternoon, everybody. Let's not fool ourselves. There's not only inequality, there's inequity in our system, and it's systemic, and many of you have never really even thought about it. I thank you for the fact that you are here today. It's a great first step, but the reality is that it's not enough. It's only the beginning. The fact is that starting back in the 70s as a kid, he's giving his experience. Here in these schools, I experienced many of those same things, and it's angering and frustrating here that all the crap still happens today. We say that this is a special place, and in many ways it is, but everybody needs to actually actively acknowledge and understand the abuse that Black people have withstood for years and years, including today. You need to be mindful and aware and observant of the microaggressions and the flat out discrimination that you witness. You need to be willing to step in and intervene. The gentleman that gave this is great businessman in a community. Kids are amazing kids, lives a great life. And although he checks all the box of affluence, education, being a leader in the community, he still experiences this. And I think that's very telling. Next slide, please. Here's a couple more examples. I go to the grocery store, and when I get to the checkout lane, I try to perform the part of a white person so they don't ask me for my ID. They didn't ask the white person in front of me for their ID. Here's another one. I'm a lawyer. I went to Stanford Law. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do to be successful and move forward. And at a time, it didn't matter. All they saw were 3 Black people. 2 or 3 cops ordered me at gunpoint to stand against the wall, the assumption of guilt. This is how you're seen before they find out who you are. Next slide. Let's continue. Next slide. Let's go to the next slide. I want to go to the next slide. Okay, somehow the image I had of America was of an open-minded liberal people, the land of immigrants and opportunity. Then I was faced with an attitude of exclusiveness and prejudice. I just hope that other newcomers who are joining this community will not assume that they're excluded because of their personality, but this is the culture of the society here. Assuming otherwise is damaging their self-esteem, causing depression. If parents would know of the prejudice and exclusiveness of the American culture, it would avoid all the disappointment, heartbreak, and humiliation. I wave hello and smile, and folks look directly at me and either keep walking with a blank stare, check their phones, pretend they can hear me. They can't hear me through their earphones, or even worse, and very painful insulting cross the street. We've gotten a lot of suspicious looks, tugging on purse strings in coffee shops, screwed up faces, turned up noses, and shopping carts pushed into the back of my legs. I've been followed when walking or jogging my neighborhood here in Pali, and it has been very scary and unsettling. I notice this kind of behavior isn't directed towards certain racial groups, but only towards Black. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. And next slide. The commission has this and it's given out in a packet, but I really want to get to the recommendations. If we can go to the recommendations now, please. One more slide, please. All right. One of the things that we realized in this summer, particularly the power of the Black Lives Matters movement, was that it was grassroots, it was fed from a diverse and dispersed group, and it was the product of years of grassroots responsibility. As a Human Relations Commission, the question that me and Vice Chair asked was, how can we create something that doesn't require the Human Relations Commission to hold a group of events, that equips the community to have discussions, and that can have an exponential result to start shifting attitudes in the community and planting seeds for deeper growth and development. So we want to partner with 100 community leaders to lead community circles in the next 12 months. What we want to do is develop a few talking points and work with people that are in diverse groups, whether they be in social organizations, Kiwanis, Rotary Club, whether they be part of religious organizations, synagogues, churches or mosques, whether they be in other community groups like neighborhood leaders or in nonprofit spaces, or people that are part of the PDA or anything like that, that are community leaders. We want to equip them to start having discussions around there. And the next, facilitate the formation of 100 community groups to meet and discuss issues of race and belonging over the next 24 months. What we want to do is a twofold approach here. We want these leaders to bring people from their circle in, but we also want to bring people from different backgrounds. So we want to make this a widespread effort throughout the community to invite people to be part of these community circles. Compile reports and findings from community conversations over the next 26 months. Because what I believe is when you start opening the gate and start having people in small groups of 5 to 10 people talking, you're going to have some honest dialogue, some honest discourse. And it's also a place where we can start shifting attitudes and having honest conversations. And it also will allow us to compile some findings from it. I know our goal here is to actively and aggressively, as a Human Relations Commission, create grassroots effort for the community to start talking about race in healthy ways and breaking down barriers. Thank you so much. We can take the slides down. All right, I want to open this up right now to public commentary. If anybody would like to, we have 2 already. Okay. All right.
Okay.
You can go, staff.
Okay, thank you. So the first speaker is Rebeccaeisenberg, to be followed by Laura Budrick. So Rebecca, why don't we wait till Mary gets up the screen, and then hold on just a minute, because that moves the participant screen to my second screen, so I have to find it a minute. Okay, Rebecca, go ahead, please. I think you're muted on your end, or can you try speaking, Rebecca?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Rebecca. Thank you.
Yay.
I think we lost her.
I just hit allow to talk. There you go. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. No worries. So first I want to say that Aaron James also has his hand up, but he's using an old version of Zoom or something, which okay. Did you hear that?
Let's start over again. Can we give her a full 3 minutes, please? Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't, it might be on my end, who knows? But what I was trying to say before is that Aaron James also has his hand up and he's using an old version of Zoom or something. And he's asked me to put, to mention that on his behalf. So I don't think it's anyone's fault, just a technology thing. So second, I really, really want to thank you for your extremely important work on this matter. These numbers are troubling, they're problematic, but they're very true. And we can confirm those numbers by looking around. If our eyes are open and not closed by willful blindness or otherwise, we can confirm that what you say is correct. What I want to put in and what I meant to mention earlier too is that I hope that you all could take a strong stand on the city's need to follow the state law with regard to affordable housing. I'm aware of some extremely problematic actions on behalf of the city council. I've already called them on this, so this is not anything new or private, such as, for example, even though almost $1 billion was offered up for free by the state for cities and counties, for affordable housing for cities and counties that just apply for it. Mountain View received about 12.5 million. San Francisco received 40 million. Santa Clara County received 30 million. Fresno, Santa Barbara, you name it. And there are dozens of cities have all received 10 to $60 million of free money from the state to build affordable housing, but our city council has refused even to apply. They've also refused to prioritize or work on affordable housing, even though the state requires it as a matter of law. It's my opinion, I think this is also backed by statistics, that failure to build affordable housing is a way that we are reinforcing the casteist, in this case, racist status quo. In our city, at only, there's a 7-to-1 ratio for the very lowest income workers that for each 7 lowest income workers, there's only one place to live that any of them can afford. This is not the way we should treat our workers, especially since so many of these workers are actually essential workers. And so much of this work is done by people of color, especially women of color. I think that so much more to say, but to wind it up, I hope that I urge you all to take a strong stand on affordable housing, especially very low income housing and low income housing as a racial justice matter. Thank you for considering.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Laura.
so much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Next is Laura.
Hold on just 1 second, please. The next is Laura, to be followed by Aaron James. Go ahead, Laura.
Great, thank you. I haven't used this system before. I'm really excited by this new direction. My name's Laura Bajuk. I'm a Palo Alto resident on Bryant Street on the southern end of town. I work as the executive director of the Palo Alto Museum. I'm also a member of the Kiwanis Club and the Women's Club. Why do I mention all of that? Because I think all 4 parts of my life as a neighbor and in my professional life and my social life have application for discussions like this. And I love this direction. The Women's Club, just FYI, with Black Lives Matter, we in our program committee wanted to do something about it, and we kind of tiptoed around it and thought, gosh, should we even be discussing it? Maybe we shouldn't, be poking our nose in where we shouldn't. And actually the Women's Club movement is all about making your community a better place, and abolition and children's rights, et cetera. Environmental activism is part of the story, and that energized our group. So the Women's Club is standing by, ready to do more. And I think that could be tapped. Kiwanis clubs, service clubs, et cetera. The museum has a new teen council that is a dynamic group of 16 and 17-year-olds doing amazing things. This would be right up their alley to convene a youth-oriented conversation, probably with YCS or other groups. At Stanford next October 2021, God willing, we're going to be having a history conference focused on local history. I'm on that planning committee with many wonderful people, mostly Stanford folks. And that might be an opportunity to be talking about race and gender issues and the kinds of things that are playing into this. Again, another forum that would attract historical organizations as the audience. And then lastly, with PAHA especially, we're collecting stories from the community. I just emailed Patty yesterday, thanks to a new connection. We want to find the stories of the community and have the community tell their stories, just as you've been doing when you collect firsthand accounts. The real story comes out. It's not what's written in the history books. And I think that's really critical. And we have ways of helping even now without a museum facility, with oral histories, blogs. We have a website where we're adding stories, and also short videos, working with the Mid-Penn Media Center and folks involved there. So call on us in any way, or let us help you brainstorm, and we'll find ways to help. This is an amazing effort, and thank you for it.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much. Are we going to Aaron?
On just 1 minute, Chair. Thank you. The next speaker is Aram James. Aram, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead, please.
First of all, Chair Smith, I really loved the presentation you gave. You really pointed at the nitty-gritty about the way that Black people, like you say, microaggressions over the years that are cumulative. I'm lucky to be married to a powerful Black woman. She was born on December 17th, 1955, 12 days after Rosa Parks refused to go to the back of the bus. And today we get to celebrate the end of segregation at Foothills Park. So I let her know that today, just those kind of bookends. But I also want to say that on Frederick Douglass Day this year, July 4th, I took a sign asking, a poster sign that I had made, asking that Zach Perone be fired. I stood there, out on the side where the Black Lives Matter mural was, and my wife was kind enough to interview me on tape as to why it was that I was taking that position. As a white man who grew up in Palo Alto and raised two African-American sons, it's interesting. One of my sons is very light skinned. I remember when he was 10 or 11, and it was a long day at the public defender's office, and we went to meet a friend, and we were sitting at the round table, and we were at a table with only white people. There were two young, long-haired white couples with their new babies, and I was listening, and all of a sudden I realized they were telling N jokes between them. They just assumed a white man wouldn't get riled. And I got riled. And I started yelling almost at the top of my lungs, I'm embarrassed to say, why don't you go over and speak to those Black folks and tell them those jokes and see what they think? Oh, please, please, please. We don't want our children hurt. Oh, please, please, please don't do that. There was silence. Folks came over and shook my hand, and the incident ended. But those are the kind of things that I've seen. And I was raised by a mom who was very active here in the NAACP. Growing up, a single mom who we routinely had African-American males that were my role models. I mean, professional men, extraordinary people that took their time to make sure that Palo Alto had a fair shot. And then the statistics that you talk about, 1.8 African-American population here. And that's what it's been for 50 or 60 years. And there's a constant push to keep Black people out of Palo Alto. Anybody that denies that simply is, not looking around is not awake to what's going on. I will want to speak to the other agenda items tonight, but again, Chair Smith, we don't always agree sometimes, but tonight you hit a grand slam, several of them, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Other hands, Chair Smith.
All right, let's do round robin. And I would like to hear the feedback from from the rest of the commissioners. I forgot to mention one piece. We are working with the media office to take snippets from the speeches that were given at the Juneteenth March, which is people verbally sharing their experiences. So that is in the process of being produced, but we do have the transcripts so that we can share the transcripts with the commission. All right, since we started at the top of the alphabet, let's start at the back of the alphabet this time. Chair Stinger. I'm Vice Chair Stinger, sorry.
I think I've said it all that I have to say. Maybe I'll wait until there's some comments and then direct my comments to flesh those out.
That's very understandable. Commissioner Savage.
Well, I can see a tremendous amount of work going into compiling this report. The organization, I just can't imagine the man hours you guys put in to come up with this. So congratulations on that. Regarding on page 20, the recommendations that you suggest are all good, but daunting. I'm talking about partnering with 100 community leaders, 100 community groups in the next 12 to 24 months. You know, it's worth a shot, but you know, it scares me. You know, that's a big number.
I agree. You know, it's a big problem, though. I agree with you. It is very daunting. But what we wanted to do was give quantifiable numbers and have an aggressive goal. And I don't know how, I agree with you, it is daunting. I don't know how we get there, but I also know that change takes time and process. So even if we aim for 100 and only end up with 65 or 55, and they only end up doing 40 or 50 groups, we've already done more, even if we don't hit the final numbers. But I like the final numbers. I like to go big.
I feel much better about that now.
Mm-hmm. So any other comments?
No, just, you know, just very impressive.
You know what? The one thing I forgot to do, can you guys allow me to share screens?
What are you asking for?
If you can let me share screens really quickly.
You can share your screen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That doesn't show the window I wanted to show. Here we go. One thing I did forget to mention to the public, and I so much work went into this, and Chair Stinger really led this effort, is in our appendices, we have a thorough timeline of our community and racism in our community. We even compiled Stanford's history. We did our additional sources, and then we have pages of speeches and transcripts in this report. So if somebody wants to hear or get more information, they can. I think the report ended up being 43 slides in total. And I think we have a couple more transcripts to add to it. So it'll end up being a 50 slide deck that City Council will be getting. All right, Commissioner Regier.
I think I have nothing else to say. That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Terran.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I read your whole report, and obviously a lot of work went in, and so I wanted to congratulate both of you and thank you for this important work, difficult work. There are many things that sort of stood out for me. Different timelines and pointers that you made around incidents, KKK parades, burning crosses 100 years ago here in Palo Alto, incidents here down the street from where I live, Ramona and Homer. So I found that this was a very important thing for us to review and also very disturbing. There were pieces that were very inspiring, like Jane Stanford or Eichler, Joseph Eichler, I think, in terms of some of the activist moves that folks have tried to make. But one of the things that really stood out for me, given that I'm a mom of children who are going to school in the local schools, the child saying that the only bit of curriculum that they had regarding African Americans was about slavery, and that there aren't role models. I think that all of this is very concerning, and given that there's this massive, at least there was, the beginning of COVID around Black Lives Matter and more awareness and people desiring to take part and engage and be part of solving the problems. I feel like this report, it's so important that this report and the information in it not just be here on the HRC, you know, for us and the participants to read and listen to. I don't know, obviously I don't understand the kinds of costs and the kind of logistics involved to help raise awareness in our community. But I believe if people understood and knew more what is ongoing currently in terms of hate crimes, as well as the long history and people's stories of what they've experienced growing up here in Palo Alto, the percents of Black and Hispanic and Latino, Latinx population, I think people don't know this. And so I wonder, and I'm just throwing out ideas here, but you know, how do we get this information to people? Can we have this be, can there be a special in one of our newspapers, local newspapers, that really focuses on this and gets this information out and provides it to people? As for your goals, and I don't know how much time I have, so I'm trying
keep going.
Too much, but I think there's a lot here that you're pointing to that are things that we ought to engage our community leaders to work on, whether it be curriculum and teaching our children things in schools, engaging parent associations. I don't know all the community leaders you're thinking of, but I love the idea of engaging these community leaders. And I think that there would be a way for us to come up with some kind of a toolkit or some sorts of, you know, there's wonderful books that are not just about reading and checking them off our list of, you know, an intellectual endeavor, but actual somatic body work, anti-racist training. I mean, I do a book club where we every week meet and discuss a chapter and do these body practices. It's Resmaa Menakem book, a leading author on anti-racist work. These kinds of things I think could be provided to community leaders, or they could attend certain training sessions that we could organize with experts in, you know, in the area, and provide real toolkits for folks to do the work. This is not a short-term thing. I like that you're talking about 24 months. But this is a long-term investment that I think who else but the HRC ought to spearhead this and really put energy behind. I also want to thank Rebecca's comment about affordable housing being a racial justice matter. When we look at the percent and we look at the ratio that she mentioned about, you know, 7 low-income workers, 1 spot for people to live. I mean, these seem like affordable housing, and then these larger issues seem to be the most important thing for HRC to be looking at, since we're supposed to represent all members of our community, especially given this long history of systemic racism. How are we even supposed to represent members of the community that can't even be part of the community or get into the community? looking at these numbers and the proportions of representation compared to California and the US. So I guess there's a lot about this presentation that I feel is really important and striking and merits underlining. And I feel strongly that this is something that we should actively get behind and really work on and be really tactical and smart about how to engage community leaders to springboard off of this work and use the resources at Stanford and all around and our community stories to make some serious progress on this issue.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Tanaka, do you have any comments?
I am definitely impressed with your presentation, and it looks like a lot of work went into it. Thank you. I think this can be very helpful for myself and my colleagues. I think the really big question, of course, is what is the remedy? How do we fix this, right? That's the hard part. And I think if you guys can go there and figure that out, that would be huge. But it's not a problem that it's not a 5-minute fix, right? It's going to take some deep thought and some real work to figure this out. So I appreciate what you guys are trying to do here.
Well, one of the things that we did, that as we outlined our position, we actually sat with 2 really great advocates in the community on Monday. And we had the discussion, like, the way change happens in most communities is not a top-down model, because the only way you structure top-down is rules and regulations not to move. I think a grassroots model from the bottom up is how you start really making significant impacts in communities, because we can't police what somebody does in the CVS or somebody that's employed in the CVS as they do microaggressions. But if they sit in a group, or they're a child of somebody that sat in a group, or they go to a faith institution with somebody that's been in the group, we can start really tackling it from a great perspective. So Commissioner Stinger, Vice Chair Stinger, sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment very similar to what you just said. We have outlined a large task here, but we've also gotten a lot of enthusiasm from people in the community who helped us with the panels this summer. And I think they'll be able to lead us in making this a formulation that'll work going forward. I think what we've successfully done is created a bridge between talking about race and coming up with a more prescriptive solution. Initially, I think we had said we wanted to be focused on the solution, but as we stepped back and really thought about it, it was so much more important to have it bubble up from the community. And the process of the groups become their own end. If we can envision diverse groups coming together to problem solve, those groups create their own sense of belonging and create a different understanding and an appreciation of community. And I'm just really excited about going forward. I hope we have agreement tonight to go forward to council and begin our work.
Thank you. Any other commissioner have any comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm not sure I understand. So other than understanding the work you've done, is it basically what you've outlined as the community members, getting these community leaders and accomplishing these things on that timeline? Is that what this motion is about? Is agreeing to do this work? Well,
we're making that. We have to hand this report to City Council, and I believe, you want to talk about divine timing. We'll be presenting this, I think, the first Monday of Black History Month to the City Council. And we want to, we have to vote as a commission to say that this report and this recommendation is what we would like to propose to the council. And hopefully the council says, you know what, I think their community idea is right on par. Let's go ahead with it. Or council can look at it and say, let's make this modification and send it back to them. Or they could say, let's not send it back to them. The council is its own body, but what we are trying to do is take what was a comprehensive study and really move it, like Vice Chair Stinger said, from an informational thing into an action-oriented piece. So tonight on the process, we're voting to send this to council with this recommendation.
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
If we can get Mary a second to get the motion screen up again. Thank you.
Vice Chair?
I was prepared to make a motion, but then I thought maybe as a member of the subcommittee,
You can make a motion.
I make the motion. I would like to move that we take this recommendation to council on the first Monday of Black History Month. And that we augment it with videos from the speakers this summer. We can also augment it with more detail about the process that we envision.
All right. We're open to discussion or a second. Can somebody second the motion? Or would somebody like to?
Did that get heard that I second?
We didn't hear you. Okay, we have a second on it. Thank you. All right, we'll take a vote. We will start from Vice Chair Stinger.
Aye.
Commissioner Savage.
Aye.
Commissioner Regan.
Aye.
Commissioner Tyrrell.
Aye.
Chair Smith. Aye. Thank you, Human Relations Commissioner, for moving this forward. I think this is such absolutely critical work, and hopefully the council will allow us to continue this work. All right. Next agenda item is our we are going to talk about our tentative about our January retreat. Staff, what is the date you tentatively assigned for that?
You know, we had it was like the third week in the month, but I just heard from the clerk's office, if that affects the timing, that the council's retreat is on the 30th of January. So I'm just giving you that information. I'm trying to get my calendar open to see what days we had mentioned again. Let me see. It's not coming up on my screen, but I believe we had a discussion of the 22nd. That sounds familiar.
Okay, I thought we had moved it to a weekday.
The 22nd is a Friday.
Oh, my 2022. Trying to get out of this year so bad. I'm 2 years ahead. All right, 22nd on the Friday, Human Relations Retreat starts at 9 a.m. ends at 1:30. Does that sound right? That's what I have in my notes.
That sounds familiar, yes.
All right. Is this an action item on the agenda, staff?
Hold on, I can only have so many screens open at once.
I'm suffering from the same thing. It's like, where's the screen?
Where's the screen? It is, Chair Smith.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to know, does the date work for everybody as far as dedicating from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on January 22nd for our retreat? Also, that is an action item. So before everybody talks, Let me just give an outline, and then I'll have the community response, and then we can have commissioners speak. Every year, the HRC undergoes a planning meeting to work a work plan, priorities, and focus. Generally, before this year, we used to do it in June, but we voted last year that what we want to do moving forward is have the retreat in January. A couple of pieces of thinking around that. We will elect our new chairperson, whoever that is, in our regular scheduled January meeting. And we want to give that chairperson the ability to start having discussion, dialogues, and working a plan that they created or helped lead. Also, we wanted to get in sync with what the city was doing as far as their planning. The other part is we do have to bring a report in June to City Council with our work plan. So we wanted to get a head start and make sure that was tight. So do we have any community questions or community comments at this time?
Chair Smith, I might just add, as far as the timing is concerned, it was just brought to my attention that by mid-end January, we may not have our new HRC liaison then. We always invite our HRC liaison to the retreat. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have a personal philosophy of coming at those meetings or not. But by that date, we probably won't know who that is. So I just bring that to your attention.
Okay.
I'm sorry I did not think of that earlier.
Okay. What date would we know who our liaison is?
Maybe the council member Tanaka would have an idea. My recollection always is it's late January, early February, but council member Tanaka, do you?
I don't recall. I have so many calendar invites. It's on there somewhere, but I don't recall.
Okay.
All right. So let me ask one question. Are people generally available on Friday at that time to do it, or do people have standing appointments on a Friday that will not allow us to do it? Whether that's Fridays in January or that Friday is in February.
Works for me.
Okay. Patty, does it work for you? Okay. So we can definitely work that date. I would like to modify the suggested date to the first Friday in February. Does that work, Sam?
I think the honest answer is we won't know. I can check with the clerk's office, but often it's the job of the new mayor to make those appointments to the commission. So often it has something to do with the mayor's ability to work through them, because there's about 10 to 15 different assignments that are made, and they all come out in the same document.
So this is what I want to do. Let's tentatively put the 5th. And if we can ask the city clerk if they have a timing on when we would receive that document. And if we have to adjust it in our January meeting, we can adjust it then. Does that sound all right?
Yes, I will double check with the clerk. Okay.
All right. All right. Do we need to take a vote on the date?
I think you do need before I interrupted you, you were going to open up if anybody from the public wanted to comment. So I just wanted to bring you back that.
Thank you.
I don't see any hands.
All right. Can anybody, let's start with commissioners. We'll start from the top.
Excuse me, Chair Smith, there is one hand from Rebeccaeisenberg.
Please let her speak. She has 3 minutes.
Okay. Mary, if you get the clock up. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Hi, thanks so much. I mainly just want to say that I think that Aram wants to speak, and sorry for not raising my hand earlier, but thank you for recognizing me. But I will say really quickly that I'm so grateful for your hard work. I really appreciate what you're doing. And thank you for mentioning the housing thing. That's awesome. There's, I I feel great about you all and the direction that you hopefully will continue to bring our city in. It makes me happy, especially around holiday time. So happy holidays to you all. I hope you have a safe and as happy as possible holiday with your loved ones. Thanks. And on to Aram.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Aram, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, Chair Smith, I'm wondering if I get leave to have my oral communication that I missed. I was here, rolled into this. I know it's late and I'd like that time back, but I'll keep my comments short and hopefully appropriate. Were you able to hear me? Hello?
Chair Smith,
Hello?
can you hear me, Aram?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you, but I do not have a response from.
Let us, Aram, what I will do is I will give you, since you had some technical challenges over the evening, as soon as we finish this agenda item, I will allow you to have your oral communications before we go into voting for minutes.
Okay, well then that's fine. And I'll speak to this agenda now, the priorities. So can I start at the 3 minutes again though with the priorities?
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I didn't get to mention, but Chair Smith, I would like to propose that on the 4th day of July, the city of Palo Alto give people the option to celebrate Independence Day or Frederick Douglass Day. That would really give the community an opportunity to know one of the greatest Americans in our history. And he has an extraordinary speech that was given on the 4th day of July. You know about it. And it would be awfully beautiful if we could recite that this year in 2021 at City Hall on the 4th day of July. No disrespect for people that want to, celebrate Independence Day. Now, I had written a little note to people that wanted to attend tonight's meeting. It kind of capsulizes some of the things that I think we should talk about this year. If you wish to comment on the ongoing council cover-up of the Zach Perot matter, that would be one of my priorities, to get that downtown streets 44-page report released before we give more funding. That we look at, like Rebecca said, affordable housing, and also the new reparations commission that Shirley Weber got passed into the state of California. We were going to have a commission. Newsom signed it. I'd like to see a reparations committee, at least a conversation about reparations in Palo Alto. It's really, really hard to get people to say the R word. And if you can't even say the word, then you can't have a conversation about it. I think that should be a priority. Daryl Savage, I want to commend you for being back again all these years later, when you and I discussed and we had dialogue. I was on the TASER task force, not as a guest speaker. You were actually on the task force. This year, I'd like to relook at the issue of tasers. The latest report by Tanaka from the Independent Police Auditor is that we've been very restrained. In these 12 years, we've only used them 32 times. It's a very expensive proposition to use them in such a limited fashion. I'm glad that we do, but I'd like that to get on the agenda. It's very difficult for people like myself or Rebecca, who some people perceive as having ideas outside the mainstream, to get issues on the agenda. I'd like to see if we respect people with opinions that might be characterized as radical or different. I don't perceive myself as radical or different, but others seem to do that, and I'll accept that. But I'd like to get a few items on the agenda with the city council. Maybe you all can help us do that. I'd like to see more items that should be on the action calendar with city council. Councilmember Tanaka put on action items. A lot of times our city manager just simply stick stuff on the consent calendar, trying to, kind of sneak it by us without the community getting to have conversation around it. Okay, that's going to be it. I want to stay within the time frame, and I hope I can speak to my oral communications at the end of this. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any are commissioners all right with the first Friday in February, 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.? I'd like to move a motion that will be the day of our retreat. It will allow whoever the new chair is. Yes.
Barry, you might just I'm just thinking, if you're thinking it needs to be at a motion, then if it's a different date, it would really feel that we'd have to come back to have another date. Could we maybe word it in a way that allows some flexibility for changing, but signals a commitment of the commission to meet within a certain time frame? It's up to you, but I just wanted to let you know a limitation of just having one date in a recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from any other commissioners? I realize that nobody has had a chance to speak so far on this. All right. This is the motion. I move that the HRC tentatively schedules our annual retreat on February 5th from 9 to 1:30 p.m. with the understanding that the date could change based on the appointment of a new council liaison. Okay. Staff makes enough. Are we good with the flexibility there?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. All right. Let's go to votes. Commissioner Deteria?
Aye. Do you want a second?
Oh, I didn't get a second. I'm sorry. I'm like
Second.
a pumpkin. All right, second.
Second.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Deteria?
Aye.
Commissioner Regier?
Aye.
Commissioner Savage?
Aye.
Commissioner Stinger?
Aye.
Chair, aye. Thank you so much. Can we please give Mr. Aaron James 3 minutes on the clock to make his oral communication because of technological issues?
I'll wait till the screen comes up, and then I need to move my participant screen. Okay, Aaron, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. You know, last night, and I think Commissioner Stinger was at the meeting, there was a very important meeting on the proposed pilot project vis-a-vis people living in their vehicles, a pilot project around several churches. And, you know, I worked with Stop the Ban community cooperation back in the 2011 through 2013, and trying to get anything out of the city was like pulling teeth. After last night's discussion, I would call our proposal for vehicle dwellers, or more appropriately called safe parking programs, has got to be the stingiest on the entire planet. We're putting it all on about 4 or 5 churches. When we worked with the city, they literally offered our volunteer group, why don't you all take $500 and run it yourselves? I mean, so contemptuous towards vulnerable people in this community. You know, I would really, I went to Santa Barbara, to the Santa Barbara program with Chuck Jagoda, who at the time was unhoused. They have a really wonderfully measured program. They do a lot of rollout to the community in advance to allay fears, because there's a lot of fear. I think Valerie is, if you had a chance to speak to that, you'll see that the preponderance, at least of the speakers last night, were just voicing fear about people who are labeled unhoused, not being in our community. The truth is, when you study it, the demographic shows that in most cities, the people that go into safe parking programs are people that grew up near or in the city and have fallen upon hard times. These programs, like the one in Santa Barbara, are monitored. No alcohol in the program, no violence. You have to have your car registered. You have to be in counseling. It's a very, very regulated program, and you have to be on a list for more permanent housing. It's just really a simple process, but the city of Palo Alto, almost like in the same kind of fashion that Chair Smith was talking about racism, treats the unhoused. It's just really something that I would ask to be a priority in your conversations this coming year. And we've got to really acknowledge that if we take people to a safe parking program, they had even women programs in Santa Barbara. They did everything they could to make as many people comfortable. And we brought the Santa Barbara, a representative from Santa Barbara to the city of Palo Alto, to a community church. We had 100 folks there. Karen Holman, former city council person, was there. And it's like we've forgotten that Palo Alto is one of the more wealthy places in the world, and we are doing a pittance. East Palo Alto does a whole lot more with safe parking programs. Mountain View does. Let's step up this year. Thank you very much to the entire commission for the work that you do and for my extra time tonight. Ciao.
Thank you so much. At this time, I will entertain a motion on, as we move from the business to the approval of minutes, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the November 12th, 2020 regular HRC meeting minutes.
I move to accept.
Can I have a second? Do I have a second?
Vice Chair Stinger has her hand up, so I believe that's her way of seconding.
Oh, thank you.
Can I also make a comment? Or?
Yes, please make a comment.
I do second the motion to accept the minutes. I would like to ask, we're going to move to a different form of minutes in the future, summary minutes. Is that correct?
That is correct. We don't have the exact timing, but at this point they're verbatim, and they might be for an undetermined amount of time, but due to a council motion, they've asked all commissions to move to sense minutes. So that transition will happen, but I don't have the timing.
Can we insert slides into the sense minutes? The presentation.
I would have to ask that question. We don't have any slides in the current meeting. I have not seen meetings with slides in them, but I can ask the clerk's office that.
I was just noticing that when I was reading your the transcript of your presentation, particularly, I was thinking I'd like to be able to go back to the slides. I think it would be nice to have it in one package.
Okay, I will ask if there's an insertion or an attachment of presentations in the minute format, and I will report that back next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. So do we have a second on the minutes?
I did second it.
Oh, you did second. Okay. Let's go to a vote. Commissioner Terrell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rickard.
Aye.
Commissioner Savage.
Aye.
Commissioner Stinger.
Aye.
Chair Smith. Aye. We have, we're tentatively set. Please put that on your calendar. We'll finalize next meeting. All right, commissioner reports. Do any commissioners have want to report on any activities that they've done in our community over since our last meeting? Yes, Commissioner Stinger.
Yeah, I have 3 things that I'd like to report. First is I spent some time with YCF Youth Community Services, and they are planning Martin Luther King Day this year, as they have every year. But it will be a virtual celebration on January 18th, 2021. And when I first heard virtual, I was thinking, but that is just not the heart and soul of what you've done in the past. But they are doing such dramatically exciting programs. I think it's going to be a really good program. They've got virtual walks around to mimic important historic moments. They've got book talks. They have leadership panels. They are going to take some videos of youth talking about their experience in schools that we may actually want to include in some of our work going forward. And they also have just received a grant from the Channing Zuckerberg Initiative, and they're going to expand the work they did this summer into a learning commission. to try to take their thoughts about what happens in schools or what doesn't happen in schools to actually make some recommendations and try to implement some changes based on their experience. So I was very excited about the YCS program. And then I also wanted to say that I excitedly listened to the county awards ceremonies, the presidential and supervisors awards. And Supervisor Smithian has this opportunity once a year to make a acknowledgement of work that's been particularly exciting in the county. And to give an idea of the caliber of programs, the President's Award from the President of the Board of Supervisors went to Dr. Sarah Cody. Some of the awards that Joe Simidian gave were to many of our HISRAP and CDBG groups. Vista, Center for the Blind, were HISRAP grantees, La Comida, Life Move, Lots of Love, the YWCA, Dignity on Wheels, Buena Vista, all received a notation, as did our chair. And that was very exciting to see you get a supervisor's award. We acknowledge that you've brought new leadership to the HRC. You ran 2 successful forums for us this summer. And Joe Simidian really commented your work in social justice. It's a real tribute. Thank you very much. And then lastly, just do want to talk about the safe parking program. Commissioner Ruggiero, did you listen to the meeting? Do you want me to? Then I'll just give a quick update. This was a meeting scheduled by the planning department to communicate their thinking behind the safe parking program and to give the community the opportunity to express concerns with the existing program. And I really want to commend the city for trying to come to the middle and the neighbors for pointing out some really good issues about security, background checks, communication from the city, and the lack of an overall plan for vehicle dwellers and homeless in the city, and for having a small response to a big problem. I think it is something we need to work on in the new year.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other commissioner reports? No. Thank you, everyone. Council?
At this point, I don't have anything to report, but thank you guys for your work. I know it's there's a lot. I was trying very hard to get you guys back up to the same number of commissioners, but my colleagues didn't see it that way. But anyways, we could try again next year. Thank you.
We definitely will. I think that's it. Staff?
Yes. So I don't have a report other than to thank the commissioners for their hard work over the year. It's been a quite unusual year, and I really feel like you've risen to the occasion in so many ways, from moving to these virtual meetings to being right there for and leading and providing comment to the 8 Can't Wait, and so many other important issues like the report that you will be providing to the council. So I just wanted to thank you. It's been my pleasure and Mary's pleasure to work with you this past year, and we look forward to continuing to work with you next year.
Thank you so much, staff, and we truly thank you so much, staff, and we do truly appreciate the efforts and the things that you work with us to get done. So I'm super grateful. All right, tentative agenda for next regular meeting. Yes, Commissioner.
I just wanted to say, since this might be Greg's last, unless he's connected, I just want to thank him for all his work being on this and showing up. I mean, thank you so much, Greg.
Well, thank you for having me. And really, this is my first time as liaison to the HRC, so I have a deeper appreciation for your guys' work. And I think we're lucky to have you guys. And I hope that you guys can go. I think you guys are touching on some really substantial issues. I'm hoping that you guys can go pretty deep on them and be able to help guide and give us recommendations on how to do things better. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Tanaka. You have been very consistent in your attendance, which says a lot. So we're grateful. All right. Let's move to agenda. Staff, I know that we have standing items that have to be in the agenda, like the elections.
Yes, that is on the agenda for next month. There was another item that was slated to be on the agenda, and that was a presentation by the Planning and Community Development Department by their special intern on renter protections. They gave a similar presentation to Planning and Transportation Commission. They have asked to come in February instead of January.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, are there any items you would like to? We do have to bring back the letter for final review and approval of the commission. So that's another item. Is there any other items that you would like to add at this moment? Understand that if you can get us, if you think of something between now and the end of December, and get it to us, we will add it to the agenda if it doesn't strike you at this moment. I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot to talk about in January, but is there any other items? All right. So everybody, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. I'd like to thank each of you for an amazing year. Although we faced a lot of adversity and the world faced a lot of adversity, I am deeply proud and humbled to work with such a fine group of commissioners, because we accomplish more in more difficult times than even before. And we continue to create great impact and hope in the city, as a Human Relations Commission should. So I'm grateful for each of you. If there are no other comments, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Be safe. Happy holidays. Good New Year.